At 82, I've learned a lot about life, but there's one decision I deeply regret: moving into a nursing home. At the time it seemed like the right choice. My family encouraged it, promising that I'd have all the care and comfort I needed. I believed them, but once I got there, I realized that the reality was nothing like what I had imagined. I know many of you might be thinking about this option, whether for yourself or loved one. Maybe you feel like it's the safest decision, or maybe you've been told it will make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in, because the truth is, life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience, it changes everything. And once you go in, getting out isn't as simple as you think. Stay with me until the end, because some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone considering a nursing home, this video might be exact what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Now let's get started. Regret 1: losing my independence. I had routines before I moved into a nursing home, so I knew when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. I could go for walks whenever I wanted, prepare my own meals, or just sit quietly. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the small room, the set meal times, or even the unfamiliar faces. Quit in my favorite chair and read a book. But once I was inside the nursing home, I soon realized that everything was on a schedule that wasn't mine. Breakfast was at a certain time, even if I wasn't hungry, and lights out at a certain hour, regardless of whether I was ready or not. You might also need permission to go outside, and you'll probably have to wait until someone is available to help you. As a result, simple decisions like what to eat, or even what to wear, began to feel like privileges rather than basic choices. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine during my first week there, stretched and reached for the book I had been reading at home. However, as I looked around the room, I realized that this wasn't my home. My books, my favorite chair, and the small comforts I had accumulated over the years were gone, replaced by sterile walls, a bed I didn't choose, and a feeling I couldn't get rid of. The hardest part was realizing that once you give up your independence, it's nearly impossible to regain it. You have to adapt, so you stop fighting when they tell you what's for supper, and stop asking if you can go for a walk whenever you want. You learn to fit into their system, but in the process, you start losing yourself. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever thought. Possible regret 2: feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside keeps moving without you. When I first arrived, my family reassured me that they would visit often. I believed them, and in the beginning they did. My daughter came by once a week, my grandchildren visited on weekends, and for a little while it felt like I still had a connection to my old life. But as the months went by, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. My grandchildren got busy with school, and work holidays were the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans always change at the last minute, and suddenly I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare at the door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. My family didn't stop loving me, though. It's easy for people to think you're okay, and that you're adjusting to not needing as much care when life just gets in the way. However, the longer you're in a nursing home, the simpler it is for them to forget how much you still need them. One evening, while I was sitting in my room with my phone in hand, I debated whether or not to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden, so I put the phone down, but then it dawned on me that this was my life, and I was watching the days pass in the hopes that someone would remember to include me. If you're considering moving into a nursing home, ask yourself if you're ready for the loneliness, because no matter how much your family loves you, it's easier to disappear once you're out of sight. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so you don't miss any videos. Let's move on to the next regret: losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just altering my living situation. I had obligations, routines, hobbies, and a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Even the little things. I felt purposeful when I watered the plants, made my own coffee, and cleaned my room. But those everyday routines vanished in the nursing home, where I was fed. At first I thought it would be nice to finally relax with no more chores or responsibilities. Just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long and empty, and I noticed that other residents, who had previously been full of energy, now spent their days sitting and waiting for time to pass. The cleaning was done by someone else, and the plants, well, they weren't mine anymore. One day, an 84-year-old man named George told me, "I feel useless," and I understood exactly what he meant when he said, "I've been a carpenter all my life, fixing things and doing little projects in my garage. But here there are no tools, no projects, nothing for me to create." I watched as he gradually withdrew his hands, which were once strong and skilled, now sitting in his lap. Life begins to lose its purpose. If you're thinking about going to a nursing home, ask yourself what gives your life meaning, because once you're there, finding purpose isn't as easy as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time passes but nothing really changes. 4. Deteriorating health faster than expected. Before I moved into a nursing home, I was doing well for my age. I wasn't running marathons, but I could still take care of myself, go for walks and cook my own meals. I had my little routines that kept me moving: grocery shopping, stretching in the mornings, even just walking around the house to keep my legs strong. But once I moved in, everything changed. At first it seemed like I was just taking it. Easy meals were brought to me, and I no longer had to stand in the kitchen to cook. If I needed something, I could just push a button, and someone would come help. But what I didn't realize was that the less I did for myself, the weaker I became. I stopped moving as much, and soon my legs felt stiffer, sat more than I used to, and before I knew it, getting up from a chair started feeling like a chore. The muscles I had spent years maintaining were disappearing faster than I ever expected. And it wasn't just me. I saw it happen to others too. People who walked in on their own 2 feet were suddenly relying on wheelchairs. People who had once been independent now needed help with things they never had trouble with before. The more assistance we receive, the more we seem to need it. For example, my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old woman, who was lively when she first moved in, used to go for daily walks around the facility, insisting that she wouldn't slow down because of a number. However, after a few months, I noticed that she was using a walker and then a wheelchair. One day, she looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." It's easy to forget that movement isn't just for convenience, it's for survival. If I had known how quickly I would lose my strength, I would have fought harder to stay active and push myself even when I didn't feel like it. If you are thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself if you will still have the drive to maintain your physical strength when everything is set up to make life easy, because it's not as easy as you think to get back up after you slow down. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights useful, please leave a comment below. Number 4, to let me know you are here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support enables us to keep producing high-quality content to educate and motivate you. Now let's move on. I regret losing my dignity and privacy. The amount of solitude I would lose at home, where I had my own space and could shut my bedroom door and sit quietly, was one of the things I didn't completely think about before going into a nursing home. If I wanted to and do things on my own terms, but in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was being watched all the time, with staff coming in and out for scheduled room checks and shared spaces, and you're rarely alone. Even simple tasks, like getting dressed or using the restroom, frequently required someone's assistance. I know they were just doing their jobs, but it's difficult to accept help for things you've done on your own all your life. I remember my first week of having a hard time accepting the idea that I had to ask for permission to do things I once did without thinking, like take a shower, because sometimes you might have to wait until someone is available to help, or need to use the restroom. Like even meal choices were limited if you don't like what's on the menu that day. Well, too bad. And then there was the issue of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and sharing a space with someone else, someone you didn't choose, can be frustrating. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I heard stories from others who weren't so fortunate. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made sleep nearly impossible. And no matter how much you try to make your room feel like home, it's never truly yours. Dignity is a hard thing to lose, and I didn't realize how much of mine I'd have to surrender until I was already there. When people knock but don't always wait for an answer before coming in, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routines are dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start feeling less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's hard to get back. Regret 6. Realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always leave. But what I didn't realize was just how hard it would be to get out. Once I was in, at first, it seemed simple. If I didn't like it, I'd just go back home. But home wasn't the same anymore. My house sat empty, and maintaining it from a distance became difficult. My children had already started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need, even considering renting out the place. When I brought up the idea of returning, they hesitated. Are you sure you can manage on your own? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you. And then there was the issue of physical decline. After months of living in a place where I didn't have to cook, clean, or even walk very far, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. The independence I once had started slipping away, making the idea of moving back home more difficult than I ever imagined. I wasn't as confident in my ability to live alone, and that fear kept me stuck. I met others who had the same experience. They thought they'd try the nursing home for a little while, only to realize that leaving wasn't as easy as they thought. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to adjust to life outside. Some people even lost the option entirely once their home was sold, or their savings were drained by the cost of concern. Nobody tells you that moving into a nursing home is a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it's not. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself if you're ready for the possibility that leaving might not be as easy as you think once you're there, because once you settle in, the barriers to leaving, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you think. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please leave a comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so that we can continue producing quality content to educate and inspire you. Reflecting on the past, I regret thinking that a nursing home was my only alternative. But I don't regret getting older. Does this imply that nursing homes are all bad? I entered expecting comfort, protection, and a higher quality of life. But what I discovered was a world that gradually robbed me of my independence, privacy, purpose, and even my sense of self. If I could go back in time, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, looked into more ways to get help without giving up my freedom, and made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. If you're faced with this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself if this is really what's best for you, or if it's just what seems easiest right now. Because the life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices are worth holding onto for as long as you can. Thank you for joining us today, and please share one thing you learned today and how you intend to apply it in your life. Your opinions are important to us, so don't be afraid to share them. If you liked this video and found it useful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us keep producing quality material to educate and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video. Reading your comments gives us a lot of motivation and encouragement.